This game to me, this is a tricky game for us, and our team has to really stay locked in. I know that Tom's going to have his team ready to go. It just makes me want to think back to a similar situation when I was at an FCS school, and we went out and played a team in California that we were 21-point underdogs in 2013, and we beat them. And I want to say we beat them handedly. And that stuff happens. That's why the ball is not round, it bounces funny. And we need to stay locked in and understand that stuff does happen. It's already happened a bunch of times around the country, and we really don't want it to happen here in Syracuse, New York. So I hope the guys are listening and that they stay locked in and focused, and we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that they do. Okay, questions?
I thought Phil interested in here and do some personnel updates. Do you have any update on Terry Lockett, his status?
Terry Lockett will be done for the year.
What about a couple of the other guys in the secondary? I think Elijah Clark was down, Jahad Carter.
We won't know about those guys until further evaluations throughout the week.
Coach, you mentioned how proud you've been through the years of your record in close games. I was looking for your assessment on how your team is handling these close games now. 2 weeks in a row, it's coming down to the end, and it feels like it's, is it football or is it something that they're really learning about?
I really think that they should feel good about themselves. To go 2-0 in close games where the record was, you guys know what the record is. You guys tell me about it all the time last year. But again, every year is different. Every team is different, and I just feel like they can. Now we've got to continue to see, and the proof is in the pudding. But so far, so good.
Was there a particular adjustment the defense made? I know it's a different team and a different approach, but do you feel like there's, like Garrett Williams even said after the game, that people were doubting it? Did you sense like they were really out to prove something in that game?
I think that the defense is really, really together. I think that the coaches and those guys have a link. I think that this feeling is growing, and hopefully we continue to water it and nurture it, and so it can become fully blossomed into something that can carry us in the back part of the season.
Last week you said you really wanted to put the microscope on the run game and just kind of working out some issues there. After watching the Virginia tape back, do you feel like you've learned anything new about what's not clicking in that unit? I
do. I think we've done a bunch of things, and we're going back and studying a lot of stuff. We're not happy with some of the things that have happened, and obviously there's going to have to be some changes. And no, you're not going to hear about the changes.
Are you concerned with the O-line? Like, do you still feel like you have the best 5 guys out there to make that room for Tucker?
Everything's under consideration. Everything's being examined.
What did Andre Schmidt show you in the game on Saturday? Right.
Yeah, exactly what I said after the post game. I really believe we have old Andre. I'm excited to see him back. I met that guy as a freshman, and he didn't have a scholarship, and all he did was win a really heavy trophy. I mean, if you want, that thing's heavy. You can go in the other room and lift it up. That thing is not light. Those kickers, I don't even know how they can handle that trophy without their snapper and their holder there to pick it up for them. I mean, that thing is heavy. But I'm really excited where we're at with 4 games with him, 1/3 of the season done. And hopefully for him and his family that he continues, because he's a great person.
I'll look up that trophy after this press conference.
No problem.
Coach Legg, just what he's meant for special teams. We've seen 2 extra points blocked, and obviously what Trevor Pena can do back there. And you just mentioned Andre Schmidt, just what he's brought as a coach to this team and what he's done to really elevate special teams.
Professionalism. I mean, he is extremely demanding, extremely professional, passionate about what he does, very detailed. That doesn't mean that everything's been right and everything is perfect, but we're striving for perfection, and he's relentless in that pursuit.
Coach, this team quite literally has contributors from all around the world. Max Mang stepping up from after Elmore's injury from Germany. Von Marburg bringing stability to the punting game from Australia. What was it like recruiting those guys?
I've always thought that a Syracuse degree was an international degree. I really believe that, whether they call it across the pond. Even when you go to Europe, there's a Syracuse of London. I mean, Syracuse is everywhere. And that degree and that name travels. So we're going to recruit the best players in the state of New York, and we're going to spiral graph out, and we're going to always try to get the guys closest to home. But as we're spiraling graphing out, because of the Syracuse brand, we can go almost anywhere. And so we are international.
I know Matt brought this up during the broadcast on Friday, the fact that at times during that game you were without 5 starters on defense. And the way that unit played, I guess it's kind of a 2-part question. You must be pleased with the depth you have and how well that unit played, even down so many starters. And then on the flip side, how concerned are you with the injuries that are mounting up, and how do you withstand that moving forward?
Yes, very pleased. Yes, very concerned. Don't sleep well. We're averaging losing a starter per game. And the backups who are now starters have done a really, really good job based off the people that we're playing. But we're starting with this week, if we're going to continue to lose one a game, I don't know how that's going to look. I don't know how that crystal ball looks in the end. So am I concerned? Yes. But, the train's left, and we can't put anybody else on it. So we're off and running.
Hey, Coach, having a guy like Devon Cooper, who's been around for so long, what does he add to this team on and off the field?
First of all, off the football field, I think that he's a guy that, even though he hasn't been with us the entire time, I think he has the trust of almost everybody in that locker room. And the interesting story about Devon is he can tell you stories. When everybody says, hey, the grass is greener on the other side, he's been on a bunch of other sides. And he's the type of guy that can say, hey, this happened to me here, this happened to me here, and either the best place I've been is either Syracuse and I think he would say that, or he has other things to compare it to. So I think he has a lot of people's ears in the locker room. And I think he's got a lot of wisdom in that young age, that number that he carries, after his birth date. I think he has a lot of wisdom, and I think a lot of the guys look to him for that.
Garrett Schrader, through these first 4 games, just going back to that film and assessing what he's done in this offense, both throwing and as well as running, just what you're seeing from him to this point.
I think based off of the other things that he has around him, along with Tucker in the backfield, that he's made himself very, how do I say, it's dangerous. I mean, you have to pick your poison based off of those 2 individuals with the guys that he has around him, and he's taken advantage of his situation, and he's playing at a very, very high level.
Can you speak to how much Max Mang has improved since you guys first saw him and what you've seen from him in the first 4 games?
Well, when he first got here, I don't think he really knew about. Are you talking about a Max? Okay, you said our Australian. Okay, I got 2 Maxes there, so I just heard the Max. I didn't hear the last name. Excuse me. Max has improved. I'm going to go back to the same thing. Australians. He can punt normal. He can punt crazy. He does things with his foot that other people do with their hands. What a pitcher can do with a baseball with their hand is what he can do with his foot. And he really does have a collection of crazy kicks that you guys haven't seen that, if with Coach Lake's blessing, will break out in a theater near you. But it's going to be interesting. I mean, he can really do some stuff with that football. And, he's done a nice job for us. He's been very productive so far.
Back up top, Kate.
Hi again. Last week it was announced that Adam Weitzman's company is going to be giving $1 million to a 5-star football and a 5-star basketball recruit to represent his company. What was your reaction to that, if you can say anything, and what does that do, just kind of thrusting Syracuse in the spotlight in terms of future recruiting?
Well, first of all, I don't have any control over that. That's the big thing about name, image, and likeness. But I was excited. I'm like, hey, that's cool that he would do that. I know he's doing it for the football and the basketball team, and as long as it passes all the legal stuff, hooray, hurrah, let's go. And who else wants to be a part of it?
Brent.
Coach, what is the pattern you've noticed with the high-rated penalties? What's a pattern you've noticed with the high-rated penalties you've had so far?
Well, I don't know. We had the exact same amount as the other team, except the other team had more yardage. What I really believe is that crew has been extremely, I'm talking about the crew of officials, have been extremely consistent on what they feel is important to call. And based off the information we had on them before the game and the information that we shared to our players, they called exactly what we thought they were going to call, minus, the targetings and things like that. So I was a little disappointed that we didn't do better because we were alerted to it, but they were extremely consistent, which is what I always ask officials to be. And the same things that they called on us, they called on the other team. And it's ironic that it came out 12 penalties to 12 penalties. I'm not exact, but I think it was 91 yards for us and 105 for them or something like that.
Coach Babers, you have a lot of ranked ACC opponents down the stretch. What's the message that you say to your team to make sure they stay focused on just Wagner the game ahead?
We're going to be 1-0. The example I just told you about Eastern Illinois going to San Diego State, I mean, I was a part of it. I lived it. And we had two coaches. Tony White was a coach on that staff. Mike Smith was a coach on that staff at San Diego State. And, they understand that it can happen, that coaches are capable of doing it. If you've got a good coach, which Tom is, and you got a team that's motivated, that wants to shock the world, and they're willing to do whatever it takes and being completely unselfish, and they don't care who gets the credit, that, miracles do happen. Just check the ice.
So it sounded like you had a good story about Max Mang earlier. What is his development looked like so far?
So you read me on that one, huh? When Max first came over here, I'm not sure he knew how to put on a football uniform. And now, let me say this now. Every international player we have is way smarter than me. Okay, most of them speak 2 languages. You should hear Bergeron and Alfred speak French. My goodness gracious, man, they make me want to go, ooh, I got to learn French. And then you get Mark Petrie and you talk Maximilian speaking German. And oh my goodness, I had a friend, I can't even think, I had a guy come in that I know, I'm not going to say anything, that speaks fluent German. And I said, you speak fluent German? He goes, yeah. I said, come here. And I took him into the weight room to speak to Max and Mark in their language, and you should have saw their face light up that this guy was speaking fluent German to him in our weight room. And that's the cool thing about being at Syracuse, is that we've got people like that. And we embrace all kind of different things here, which is really cool. And, Max is getting much better. He's way better than when he first got here, and we expect him to continue to get better. But I like the diversity that we have in this school.
Coach, what did you see from the offensive line on Friday, and what's kind of an area of focus for that unit going into Wagner?
I think we just need to go back and examine what we're trying to do. We've got to make sure that, everybody can do something. Everybody can do something. And we've got to make sure they're doing the stuff that they're good at, not necessarily the stuff that we think we want to do. If we can't get them to do something, to get them to get better in some of the areas that they're weaker in, then we need to focus on the areas that they're really good at and make that happen. So that's what the microscope is in that department right now.
And then will Justin Barron be back for the first half?
Justin, watch this. I do know the answer to that, but I haven't had an opportunity to speak to Justin, so I'm not going to comment on it.
Coach, Arande Gatz ended his second straight game with over 100 receiving yards. What have you seen from him that's really, elevated him to such a dynamic weapon in the offense?
He is so cool. I mean, when you talk to him, it's like he doesn't elevate it. He's not a roller coaster. He's flatline, man. He is so cool. He just really doesn't get excited, and the situation or the moment's not too big for him. He knows how to catch the ball. He knows how to run routes. He's been there before. He doesn't care if he's doing it in his backyard and his dad's throwing it to him, or if he's in the dome and there's 40,000 people in there, which we need to get. Okay, so he's just a really cool customer, and what he does on the practice field, he does in the game. He's consistently good.
I know you talked about the injuries shaping up the depth chart, but against an FCS opponent, how much of a role do you think the underbelly of your depth chart will have?
No, I'm not going to get into that. I'm not going to get into that. We've got to go out and we've got to play the game. I just told you about 21-point dogs that, that team, let me tell you this, the team, that EIU team that beat that San Diego State team, that was favored, that we were 21-point dogs. I do believe, I may not be correct, but I do believe that team went on to win the conference. So you're talking about a really good football team not being in the right frame of mind. We can't, I'm going to do everything in my power not to let that happen.
Steve, then Dan?
Yeah, I mean, that was essentially my question. I mean, I know that the goal this week, first and foremost, is get the win. What are you hoping to get out of this week, as you get ready for a bye, and then we know the schedule gets very, very difficult after that? What's the goal, young players have, the hope is young players have a chance this week?
We need to focus. We need to focus on Wagner, and then we need to focus on ourselves. And we need to continue that because we will not get another break. And it's really the NC2A limits the amount of time that we're allowed to have with them, and we've got to make sure that we use every amount of that time to the best of our ability on what we're weak at or what we want to get stronger at.
Dean, when you said that Terry Lockett's going to be out for the rest of the year, just what you can say he's meant to this team, and then Kevon Darden coming in, just what he's done in rotation and your trust in him.
Starting with Kayvon, Kayvon didn't have a scholarship when we started. He earned a scholarship. He was about 7-8 rows back, second seat from the right. I'm visualizing it, and this whole team went crazy. And what a blessing to have him here with the job that he's been doing. Mr. Lockett, he's one of the best guys on the D-line. You're talking about legitimate starter, along with Stephon Thompson. You're talking about two real cats, okay? And we're looking forward to them coming back and wearing our colors again next year. But there's no doubt that both of those guys hurt us.
Coach, since you're off to a 4-0 start, first time since the 2018 squad, what do you see in this year's team that reminds you of that team?
They're just really close. You guys, it started in the summertime. There was things. You guys get to talk to those guys, ask them the questions, and they'll give you the answers. There's things that they did in the summertime where I was looking at them going, the last time I saw that was that year. I did whistle. That's the second time in my entire life. I had to stop that. That they were just doing things that reminded me of really, really good teams. And then after they did it a couple of times, I alerted them to it. I said, this is what really good teams do. You guys need to keep this up. But this is them, okay? This is their time. We're all on it for the ride. We'll do our part and try to cross T's and dot I's, but they've got to go out there and make tackles and make plays. And our job is to, while they're taking the test, we're the TAs, okay? We're the TAs, and we're going to do everything in our power to make sure they get the right answer. Without cheating, but we're in it with them, and we want them to get an A. We want them to get a good grade, but they've got to go out there and do the work.
Coach Babers, I remember that you said last week that you take the AP poll rankings with a grain of salt. I want to know if being ranked 25 in the coaches poll means something more to you or different.
It means a little bit more. When I was growing up, it was only a top 20. Axe remembers when that was. Nobody else does in the room. But, don't get me wrong, I'm excited about the top 25, but the top 20 is what? When you're in the top 20, okay, now you've got me, what gets me excited? That gets me excited. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking it. Young people, let's go, top 25, I got it, and I told the team this on Sunday. But, okay, now everybody knows you're not going to surprise anybody. Everybody wants to be the next Appalachian State everybody wants to be those people on ESPN talking about, look what happened. And, we've got to handle that. And it's going to be interesting, and now it begins.
Did you rank yourself this week?
I'm not allowed to talk about my vote, but it's interesting that you know that I get one.
Got time for two more if anybody's got it. Start with Emily in front and finish with Connor.
Marlo Wax has been really consistent for you guys on defense this year and has added value. How do you feel like he's grown just in his 3 years here with the program? Like, what's the biggest growth you've seen?
Did you know what that meant?
Yeah, Karate Kid, Wax on that top.
Yes, ma'am. Awesome. Marlo is just like that Karate Kid. I mean, can you not love Marlo Wax? I mean, he's got a name, image, and likeness ice cream deal. Okay, ask him about that. And the owner of the place was talking about him. They just love Marlo, and I'm like, yeah, he looks, keep eating that ice cream because I like him to get bigger and bigger as fast as he is. But Marlo's one of those guys that's going to be a leader on this football team, and we expect big things out of him now, and we expect big things out of him in the future. He's part of that mob cast, I believe, and I wish nothing but good things for him. He's a really, really cool individual, you guys, on the football field and off. Fantastic teammate.
Last question, Connor. Anything you can share about Derek McDonald and kind of where the linebacker depth stands at the moment?
Still got to see on that one. Obviously wasn't available Saturday. We're hoping to have a better diagnosis this week, okay? But he's someone that's still up for this year. Right?
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.